pleasant day to all of you. Welcome to the first part of this WebTalk series for guardians and parents of private schools, organized by the Baguio City Association of Private School Administrators, or BC-APSA. I am Mrs. Annie Marie Buenafe-Cagiwa, the President of the Association of Private School Administrators and the Assistant Directress of St. Louis School Incorporated. This pandemic is a global emergency crisis that has disrupted the school's usual teaching learning process and brought us all to an uncertain situation. As if we were forced to swim at the middle of a big ocean without enough training. So we have no choice now but to help one another so we can move together with confidence and reach our destination. For us to be saved from this drowning, sana all makaligtas, we need wise and visionary leaders to guide the members as well as open-minded and cooperative members. The values of mindfulness, respect, resilience, collaboration, and kindness must be in each of us so we can all move together and attain the goals successfully. To remember these values, we summarize it through the acronym MRRCK: mindfulness, respect, resilience, collaboration, and kindness. Crises in life, such as this pandemic, direct us to learnings and opportunities. Allow me to share some learnings we have at hand. First, during the lockdown period, we realized that we don't need much in life. Having the basics in life, such as food, shelter, clothing, and family, life becomes simple and bearable. Moreover, we realize the essence and importance of family and education. School education, wherein the classroom was the main means of transference of learning, was challenged and required a new mode by this pandemic. Our resilience made us think out of the box in order for education to push through. Needless to say that we came across difficulties from all sides: parents, children, teachers, and school administrators. School administrators realized that teachers have to work closely with the parents and guardians for the sake of the children. Sabi nga ng Rex, para sa bata. However, most parents discovered that they were not trained to be school teachers and that they can hardly teach their children. Most teachers also found out that it is most difficult to be a distance learning teacher. Almost 90% of our learners, parents, and teachers prefer face-to-face learning. But we cannot do otherwise at this time, for we are bound by protocols for the safety of everyone. Safety is our top priority now. We do not allow ourselves to live in a VUCA world, which means volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Since we choose to be resilient, we shift to the positive side of VUCA, which is visioning, understanding, clarity, and agility. This positive side of VUCA inspired the school administrators in Baguio City to come up with a project that will strengthen the homeschool partnership and assist the parents and guardians to guide their children better. This project is named WebTalk. Series of virtual talks will be presented, and we believe that these will be venues for all of us to learn better for the common good. Let us not stop learning for our continuing growth as parents and guardians of the children of today. Gagawin natin ito para sa mga bata dahil mahal natin ang mga bata at sila ang pag-asa ng ating bayan. We have invited experts to accompany us in this WebTalk journey. For better learning, we request that you give time for yourself to deal, D-E-A-L. This means drop everything and learn at your most convenient time. Before we introduce our first speaker in this journey, allow me to thank the indefatigable officers of BC-APSA. Mr. Marlon Angaga, the Vice President for Senior High School and the Vice President for Academics at St. Joseph de Mary Academy. Mrs. Gladys Ibayan, the Vice President for Junior High School and the Principal at the University of the Cordilleras. Mr. Mel Pablico, the Vice President for Elementary and the Principal of SLU Laboratory Elementary School. Dr. Marilyn Balmeo, the Secretary and the Principal of SLU Laboratory Junior High School. Ms. Nancy Culayan, the Treasurer and the Principal of Victory Baptist Academy. Mrs. Jocelyn Dugaong, the Auditor and the Principal of Metropolitan Christian Academy. Mrs. Karen Gampol, the PRO and the Principal of Calvary Ministries Academy. The business managers, Pastor Romeo Valiente, and also the Principal of Grace Bible Academy, and Ms. Cherise Go, the President of Berkeley School. Our heartfelt gratitude to Rex Publishing and group of companies for sponsoring the first Web Talk for parents and guardians. We welcome in our midst a national celebrity who truly cares for the private schools in the Philippines, Atty. Joseph Noel Estrada. Ladies and gentlemen, we now welcome you to the first Web Talk for parents and guardians of the private schools. Mabuhay private school parents and guardians, mabuhay Baguio City.
Isa pong maganda at mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat. It is my pleasure to introduce today our guest speaker. Attorney Joseph Noel M. Estrada obtained his degree in political science at the Colegio de San Juan de Letran in 1999, where he graduated with honors. He earned his Bachelor of Laws degree at the University of Santo Tomas, Faculty of Civil Law, and admitted to the Philippine Bar in 2005. He recently completed an executive program at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, on transforming higher education leaders through effective policy reforms. Attorney Estrada is the Managing Director of the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations, or the COCOPEA. He is also the managing partner of the Estrada and Aquino Law Corporation, or EA Law. Attorney Estrada has become the legal luminary in education law who immerse and help shape the legal environment in education. He is a regular resource person of the House of Representatives and Senate Committees on Education. He also regularly represents private education in policy consultations in the Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. He is also counsel to several educational associations, which include the Philippine Association of Private Schools, Colleges and Universities, or the PAPSCO, Fund for Assistance to Private Education, or the FAPE, Philippine Accrediting Association of Schools, Colleges and Universities, or the PAASCO, South Manila Education Consortium, National Alliance of Private Schools, Philippines, Ayala Education, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association. He regularly writes op-ed articles on education at the Manila Times, where he also serves as the newspaper's legal counsel and corporate secretary. Atty. Estrada helped draft RA 10533, or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, and actively engaged in its public discourse and legislative deliberations. He was one of the handful who wrote its implementing rules and regulations, and hence has an insider's understanding of the law and its implications. In 2018, he successfully defended the constitutionality of RA 10533 in the case of Council of Teachers and Staff of Colleges and Universities of the Philippines with the Secretary of Education. He was also instrumental in the passage of RA 10687, or the Unifast Law, in 2015, and RA 10931, or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education, in 2017. He recently released a book entitled The Education Act, a Compendium of Philippine Education Law, Jurisprudence, Practices, Policies, and Regulations, published by Rex Bookstore. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let us give our very, very warm applaud to Attorney Joseph Noel M. Estrada.
Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. To our friends from the Association of Private Schools Administrators, Baguio City Chapter, headed by its President, Miss Annie Kagiwa. Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat dyan. And of course to our Department of Education, Cordillera Administrative Region Chapter, Baguio City Division. Tama po ba? Magandang umaga din po sa inyong lahat dyan, sa ating mga bossing sa Department of Education. And of course to all of you joining us today, from the students, to the teachers, to the school personnel, and also most especially sa ating mga parents and guardians. Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. My lecture today is about the role of parents in the new normal from a legal standpoint or perspective. Alright, let's first revisit what is the role of the parents in the education of our children. Okay, first of all, meron po tayong tinatawag na child rearing rights, okay, under the Constitution. Kasama po dito sa child rearing rights ang responsibility and authority to direct the education of children. And the child rearing rights pertain naturally and at the first instance to the parents. In other words, karapatan po ng magulang, karapatan at responsibilidad ng magulang ang edukasyon ng kanilang mga anak. Sa kanila po yun. Sa kanila po yun pinatutukoy ng batas dahil sila po ang natural parents, no? At sila ang may karapatan at responsibilidad sa pangangalaga ng mga bata kasama ang kanilang edukasyon. So, dahil po dito ang gusto po nating i-emphasize, hindi po responsibilidad at the first instance, no, ng ating pong gobyerno or ang ating estado ang edukasyon ng mga bata. Ito po ay responsibilidad at karapatan ng mga magulang para sa kanilang mga anak. In fact, under Article 2, Section 12 of the Constitution and under Section 2, Paragraph 2 of Article 14, yan po ay binabanggit, no, sa ating pong saligang batas. Alright? The natural and the primary right and duty of parents in the rearing of the youth for civic efficiency and the development of moral character shall receive the support of the government. So, supportive lang po yung gobyerno, no? Pagdating sa karapatan at responsibilidad ng mga magulang patungkol sa edukasyon ng kanilang mga anak. And also under Section 2, Article 14, sinabi dito, without limiting the natural right of the parents to rear their children, elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age. Ito po ang ibig po sabihin, ang masusunod po patungkol sa edukasyon ng mga bata ay kanilang mga magulang. Ang desisyon kung saan sila mag-aaral or kung sila ba ay mag-aaral at kung saan, kung sa public school or sa private school at lahat ng patungkol ng desisyon sa kanilang edukasyon, yung pong kanilang natural parents ang mag-decide, hindi po ang Estado. Ngunit, alright, however, kapag ang mga magulang po ay ipinasok na ang kanilang mga anak, whenever they send their children to formal education, whether in public schools or in private schools, they now delegate the responsibility to educate their children to the educational institution. Alright, so they delegate, alright, they share, pero they do not divest. Ibig sabihin, hindi po inililipat ng magulang ang karapatan sa pangangalaga ng kanilang anak sa mga educational institutions completely. They merely share parental authority with them, no? When it comes to education of children. Kaya po meron tayong tinatawag na, as you may know, in loco parentis principle. This simply means in place of the parents, no? So now the teachers, the school administrators, and the school itself stand in loco parentis when it comes to students, while the students are under the supervision, custody, and instruction of the school. Ang ibig sabihin po nito, ulitin ko po, ang ating po mga teachers at mga school administrators, sila po ang tumatayong magulang ng mga bata habang ang mga bata ay under supervision, instruction, or custody of the school. Hindi po ibig sabihin na sila ay substitute parents. They are not meant to substitute the natural parents. Ang ibig lang po sabihin nito, habang ang mga bata ay nasa kanilang pangangalaga, ang parental authority ng mga natural parents over their children ngayon ay ginagampanan ng mga teachers and school administrators. In other words, whatever the natural parents may do and decide on behalf of their children, all right, for their interest and welfare, the teachers can also do. Ano po ba ang kasama sa parental authority? When we say parental authority, kasama po dyan, of course, giving love, support, respect, and of course, even discipline of the students. So, kung ano pong pwedeng gawin, no, within the bounds of what is legal and not abusive, whatever the parents can do over their children, the teachers and the school administrators can also do the same for the good of the students. And of course, yung in loco parentis principle is also a basis for some liability. Now, when the teachers and the school fail to discipline students, and consequently, the students incur or causes injury or causes damage to other persons because of lack of discipline, ang ating po mga eskwelahan ang magiging liable, no, kasama nila. They become solidarily and primarily liable, all right, for damages. Kasi nga po, sila ang nangangalaga at sila ang naggagabay sa mga estudyante. Ngayon, under this new normal, this becomes complicated, no? Because prior to the pandemic, it is very clear when the students are in school, all right, or whenever they are in school under the supervision of the school administrators and the teachers, and the parents are at home. And so whatever happens to them inside the school premises while they are under the supervision of the school authorities, then the teachers and the school are responsible over them, no, for their welfare. Sila ang nasusunod sa paggabay sa lahat, no? Or even when the students are not in school but they are attending to school activity outside of the school campus, ganun din, the teachers and the school administrators, they are liable, they are responsible for all of these students in directing their education. While maliwanag po yung instances when the students are under the supervision, custody, or instruction of the school. Pero ngayon, no, under our situation now, because of the pandemic, and the students are at home, attending to remote education, flexible delivery, and most especially online, no, meron pong parang overlapping of authorities. Bakit po? Because the students remain at home, physically under the care of their parents, but they attend education, they attend their schooling through online means or remote means, no? Ibig sabihin, magkasabay po, no? Magkasabay ang supervision, instruction of the school and the teachers over the child, and also the physical custody of the parents. Ngayon, ang madalas na tanong, sino ang masusunod, no? Pagdating sa edukasyon ng bata? Yung natural parents ba na kasama yung kanilang mga anak, or yung teachers and teachers ba at school administrators, because it concerns the education of children. Alright, ang sagot po dyan, hindi po nagbabago ang principles on education na nabanggit ko kanina. Alright, that when the parents send their children to formal education, the teachers and the school authorities become primarily responsible over their education. And the role of the parents include being supportive of school policies and making sure that these are implemented even when the student is not in school. No, kahit nasa bahay, dapat they help in facilitating learning. Kahit noon pa man, ganun na po talaga ang ating polisiya at prinsipyo ayon sa batas. At hindi po ito nagbabago even under our current situation. Kahit po ang mga bata ay nasa bahay at sila ay uma-attend ng online classes or other modes of flexible learning, they remain under the authority, supervision, and influence of the school. And the parents' role, hindi po nagbabago. They are under the obligation to coordinate and cooperate with the school in the efficient implementation of school policies, whether it's purely academic, curricular, or non-curricular, including discipline policies. Ang masusunod po pagdating sa edukasyon ng bata ay ang eskwelahan pa rin. But of course, in the general interest, no, in the overall interest of the child, syempre, andyan pa rin ng mga magulang, no? But ang kanila pong duty is to guide their students in their participation in class, no? Ang gusto ko lang pong emphasize dito, the source of knowledge and the source of learning is the primary responsibility of the school, not of the parents. Kaya minsan, syempre, tayong mga magulang, ako po ay magulang din, meron akong 3 grade schoolers na all boys. Minsan, talagang ganon. Whenever we see our children, we tend to do things for them, no? Hindi natin maiwasan. Hindi po ito naiiba sa sitwasyon prior to the pandemic, no? Yung mga, lalo na sa mga maliliit na mga bata, sa mga pupils na hinahatid pa ng mga magulang sa kanilang klase. Diba during the first few days and even weeks of school opening, yung mga magulang, they are allowed to stay outside of the classroom, no, looking at their children from the window, no, dahil meron pang separation anxiety. At the schools allow that for some time until komportable na yung bata sa mga teachers and they no longer need their parents to be there, no, within close distance, no. Pero even during those times, hindi naman din pinapayagan ang mga magulang na pumasok at sumagot para sa kanilang mga anak at sagutin ang teacher at pigilan or turuan ng teacher kung anong dapat gawin. Hindi ba po gano'n naman talaga? So it is the same now that we are online. The parents are just there, not just to facilitate learning, to make sure that the students participate in class and follow the school's rules and regulations and instruction. Pero hindi sila yung hindi obligasyon ng magulang na sila ang masunod, no, dahil lamang nasa bahay na ang mga bata. But of course, it requires a good relationship between the school and the parents. It is a shared responsibility. Diba, sinabi ko nga kanina, merong natural parents at merong special parents, but they're all parents, no? As long as that is maintained in harmony, wala po tayong problema. Now, in terms of partnership, no, one way to look at the relationship also between the school and the parents, it is also one of partnership. Why? Because when students enroll, no, when parents enroll their children to a school, there is created an agreement or a contract, no? An education contract. Ano po yung kontrata na yon? It's an agreement, 'di ba, na ang mga bata ay papasok at mag-enroll, magbabayad po tayo ng kaukulang tuition and other school fees in exchange for the education that is promised by the school, quality education, quality and relevant education that is delivered by the school to its students. Ngayon, yan ay obligasyon ng school, pero may obligasyon din po ang ating mga estudyante at kasama ang mga magulang. Alright, kaya meron pong tayong tinatawag na reciprocity in the school and student relationships. It gives rise to bilateral obligations. Ang ibig sabihin is, hindi po ito obligasyon lang ng school ang tinitingnan, kundi bawat partido po, no? Like in a usual agreement or contract, all parties have their own obligations. At ano po ang obligasyon ng mga bata at ng mga magulang? Number one, ng mga bata, of course, they need to study well. They need to follow the school rules and regulations, including discipline policies. And of course, they have to also to pay the fees, no, required, no. And if they fall short in these obligations, then the school can also have some remedies, no. Halimbawa, hindi po kung ang isang bata ay hindi niya na-meet ang academic standards, no, at dahil hindi siya nag-aaral ng mabuti. So, the school is under no obligation to promote the child to the next level. No, pwedeng mag-repeat, pwedeng matanggal, no, dahil hindi din sinunod at hindi rin tinupad nung bata o nung estudyante yung kanya namang obligasyon din, no. Ganun din kung siya ay nag-aaral ng mabuti but he or she is not following the school rules and regulations when it comes to student discipline, maari din siyang maalis sa school, no, kapag ang kanyang infraction or violations are very serious and grave, no. So again, the school is not under obligation to keep the student who is prone to violate policies of the schools, particularly those that have grave or serious adverse impact on the community. Ngayon, yung parents, ano ang role nila? Yung role po ng parents to ensure that the students comply with all of these obligations also of the student. So, it's reciprocal, no? Lahat po tayo ay merong obligasyon, and it is a partnership, no? Kaya nagpareho tayong nagtutulungan so that education will work for all of us. Okay, remember that just like any other contract, the education contract may be breached or may be violated, no? Kaya dapat patuloy yung magandang relationship between the parents and the school to make sure that that obligations are complied with for the benefit of our students. Now, there is also an implied obligation on the part of the school. Aside from delivering quality and relevant education to the students, meron pong built-in obligation tayong tinatawag. And this is the obligation to make sure that the students are safe and secure, no, in school, no. But before we go into that, no, I just would like to give some emphasis again on the role of the school and the obligation of the school in delivering quality and accessible education and directing the education of children, no? Sila po talaga ang merong discretion and judgment dyan, no, when it comes to giving grades, when it comes to promoting students to the next level. It's really their decision. In fact, sabi nga ng Supreme Court in a long line of cases already, sabi ng Supreme Court, as long as those decisions, yung academic decision ng school, as long as these decisions are based on reasonable school rules and regulations, they are beyond review by administrative bodies and even courts of law. Ito po yung tinatawag na recognition of the academic judgment or discretion of schools. And again, this is beyond review, not even by courts of law. And only when there is marked arbitrariness will the courts interfere with the academic judgment of the school. And inexplained ito ng Supreme Court, no, in saying that, well, if we will allow, no, parents or students to contest their grades, for example, which is purely an academic decision, wala na pong matatapos, hindi na po makakapagpatuloy ang ating mga eskwelahan, no? Laging ma-stop tayo because there will be a constant review of the grades and academic decisions of the schools. At hindi lang yon, sabi ng Supreme Court, baka mapuno ang ating mga korte, no, ng mga kaso patungkol sa mga estudyante na hindi na-admit, mga estudyante na na-drop or bumagsak, no, because they will all file a petition for judicial review of their grades, no. And this is very instructive, no, in the courts, in saying that the academic decision and discretion of schools should be respected, and only when there is marked arbitrariness, ibig sabihin wantonly unfair, no, or unreasonable yung decision ng school, only then that the courts will inquire. But of course, before that, meron pa tayong exhaustion of administrative remedies within the Department of Education. But only in those instances, in fact, sabi ni Supreme Court in one case, when there is a modicum of fairness or color of due process in arriving at that decision, academic decision, that decision should be recognized and respected. That decision of the school should be respected. It should be beyond review, no? Because the schools have a special role in our society. They should be able to do their part without constantly worrying about cases that may be filed against it. No? Dapat meron ding level of independence yung ating mga schools, free from pressure of parents, no? Iba kasi mga teachers talagang di natin maalis na takot sila sa mga parents lalo na kapag yung parents nagtanong na sa mga grades sa mga anak or how the students are doing or performing in the school, no? So we really have to support each other. We have to let our parents do their job and the schools to do their jobs, no? In educating our children. Let us give them that space, no, to perform their function in the lives of our children. And unfortunately, hindi sa lahat ng schools hindi ganon, no? Meron talaga I know of some schools where the relationships between the parents and the schools are already strained, no? Dahil marami silang conflict, maraming and sana hindi umabot sa ganon ang mga relasyon sa mga eskwelahan, no? And in fact, there is a case, an old case, yung Japchin pa versus Court of Appeal. Sabi ng Supreme Court, kapag daw yung relationship between the school and the parents have become so strained, ibig sabihin hindi na maayos, no? And the school can ask the parents to look for another school elsewhere for their children, even when the student is performing well or has not violated the school policy, no? But if the relationship between the school and the school and the parents have become so strained, no? Parang hindi na maayos, hindi na laging magulo, no? Ang kawawa po dyan eventually ay yung mga bata, dahil binibigyan ng karapatan ng ating batas ang mga eskwelahan na sabihin sa mga magulang na kung hindi natin maayos, ay maaari po kayong pumunta na lamang sa ibang eskwelahan. But this is, again, please take note that this is only exercised in the extreme scenario or situations where the relationships can no longer be fixed, no? The relationship between the parents and the school authorities is so strained already that it can no longer be fixed, no? So sana wag po tayong umabot sa ganung paraan at lagi po nating maayos kung meron mang hindi pagkakasunduan. Again, going back to the obligations of the students, sinabi ko na po ito kanina, studying well, following the school regulation, and of course paying the fees naman. And but I also believe that the school should also be mindful of the adverse economic condition also of the parents and the families at this point, and that they should also give some leniency in terms of the payment of fees. But of course, the parents should also understand the schools that the schools operate on prompt payment of tuition, because the schools are fully tuition funded, no? Tuition is the lifeblood of every school. Kung hindi po tayo tutupad sa ating mga obligasyon, kawawa din po yung eskwelahan. But of course, in situations where there is really dire need for budgets, and the school of course should also try to understand that. Marami rin po tayong mga mechanisms in order to address that. Merong promissory notes, no? And other arrangements that be made between the school and the students. Pero alam niyo po, ang lagi kong sinasabi, kapag yung isang pamilya, no, or yung estudyante ay despite the means, no, having the means to pay promptly the tuition and yet they do not make good their obligation to the school, ang kawawa po doon hindi lang yung eskwelahan kundi yung mga estudyante at mga magulang na nagbabayad ng tama at nasa oras. Bakit po? Because kumukonti po sila na naghahati-hati dun sa obligasyon to support the operational budget of the school. No? So, sana isipin din po natin yun, and we should support the school, no? Whenever we can. No? And of course, because education is important, education is not a mere commodity. Considering its effect and the effect on our children and in their future, no? We should invest on the education of our children. Okay, now, ito po, this is a good takeaway. No? The obligation of the school to educate a student would imply a corresponding obligation on the part of the student to study and obey their school rules and regulations, no? Of that is in place. No? Ibig sabihin, hindi lang, again, we go back to that partnership. No? The school provides education, but the students should also help themselves. They should also do their part in studying well. Again, going back to the role of the parents under the law, under the Education Act or Batas Pambansa Bilang 232, yung pong sinabi ko kanina ay naisusulat din sa batas na the parents shall cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school program curricular and co-curricular. No? The supportive role, the cooperation of the parents is very important for the successful education and delivery of education for our children. And especially now, we need it more than ever. No? We need the patience of the parents. We need the time of the parents now that the children are at home while attending to their classes, to their education through online and remote delivery modes. Parents' role is to facilitate learning of their children. Hindi po sila ang tatayong teacher. Sila lamang po ay magpa-facilitate. Make sure that the students participate. Make sure that the students do their assignments. Make sure that they do their tasks while being offline or while at home. They should comply with the tasks given to them by the school authorities. Now let's go to discipline naman. When it comes to student discipline, education, sabi nila, it has a twofold function, okay? The schools have a twofold function. One is to provide education, the other one is to shape the character of the students to make them worthy citizens of the society. In other words, kailangan sila ay maturuan ng tamang values so that they become better persons when they leave the school later on when they graduate. And student discipline is the means to carry out that second function. Without student discipline, hindi magagampanan ng eskwelahan yung kanilang responsibilidad na bigyan ng opportunity na maka-develop ng good values ang mga bata at mga estudyante. Alright, without student discipline, the school would not be able to shape the character of these students. And this is where the parents' role also come in. Because, minsan the school policies on discipline, they're implemented consistently inside the school premises. But once the student leaves the school premises, hindi na yan nababantayan 24/7, of course, ng mga teachers. They now are under the supervision of their parents. And it is the role of the parents to make sure or to ensure that the school discipline policies are also carried out even when the students are already at home. Otherwise, these policies on discipline would be meaningless. Kaya ito nga po, gumawa ako ng script. Sabi nung teacher, "Mommy," pinatawag niya yung nanay sa school, "Mommy, I called you because your son is misbehaving in my virtual class." Sa Zoom ito Sabi nung nanay, "He is also misbehaving at home. Ako na ang bahala." So, yan madalas ang scenario. sinasalo na ng magulang, kami nang bahala, no? Which is oftentimes not the proper response, no, to discipline issues on the child whenever they attend online or remote learning. Kasi dapat ang pagdating sa pagdidisiplina, of course merong pagdidisiplina sa bahay, but again it should be harmonized, and it should be consistent with the school's policies on discipline. Kasi yung mga school policies or standards on discipline, lalo na sa ating mga Catholic schools and religious schools, syempre very deliberate yan. There are certain values that they want to inculcate to our children. No? They want to have a yung bang finished product, no? That when our students graduate, dapat ito sila. Diba? Usually nakikita yan sa vision and mission, how they envision our children, no? When they leave the school, anong klaseng tao sila. That's why doon pa lang sa formative years, the schools try to shape the character of our students. Now again, it becomes meaningless if the families and the parents would have their own way of disciplining children. That's why it should be harmonized, no? It should be consistent. Kailangan magdugtong yan, no? But of course, the basics, no, what is wrong and what is right, dapat hindi kinukonsinte, no? Kung alam nating mali, it should be consistent with the school's policy on discipline, and even when the children are at home. And sometimes when the school authorities discipline students, impose discipline on our children, masakit talaga sa magulang yan. Minsan lalo na when we feel that it is excessive, or we feel that they do not have the right to do that, no, over our children. May mga iba ako narinig na magulang, sinasabi nila, kami lang ang pwedeng magsalita ng ganyan sa aming mga anak. Kami lang ang pwedeng magtaas ng boses. Kami lang ang pwedeng mag-utos sa kanila kung anong dapat tamang gawin. Which sometimes it's also not correct, no? Because as I've said, as a special parents, yung ating pong mga teachers, they also have the right to exercise parental authority over our children. Except, of course, when it is already beyond what is allowed by law, no? If it becomes abusive, or it is already the prohibited corporal punishment by our Department of Education, hindi rin naman po yan tama, no? Pero minsan dahil diyan, no, the overly sensitive, may mga magulang na ganyan, overly sensitive, no, when it comes to discipline of teachers over their children, kadalasan nagkakaroon ng mga complaints for child abuse, no, against teachers. Now, I'd like to share with you, ano po bang parameters, no? When do we say that when something is done, no, to the child, it consists child abuse, no? Meron pong case, no, People versus Bungalon. Sabi po ng Supreme Court, not every laying of hands over a child is child abuse. Hindi daw porke may nasaktan na minor or bata, child abuse na. Only when it tends to debase, degrade, or demean the intrinsic worth and dignity of the child as a human being, that it is child abuse. In other words, yung intention po ang nagiging basihan on whether the act over the child is abusive or not, or whether it constitutes child abuse. The intention. And obviously, if the intention is to discipline the child, then there is no child abuse. Except na lang kung nagkaroon ng physical injuries yung bata, no? Then it is child abuse, no? Pero yung halimbawa napagalitan, nasabihan, no, napagtaasan ng boses, hindi naman po siguro automatic yan na child abuse na. Titingnan natin ano ba yung intention. And the general rule is, of course, when it is within the teacher's authority, no, to discipline the child, then it is not child abuse, no. Again, I'm citing the case of People versus Bungalon, or Bungalon versus People of the Philippines. Meron pa pong subsequent case, yung Patulot versus People of the Philippines. To those who are interested in studying the jurisprudence on this matter, please do some readings on those two cases. Yung Patulot, last year lang po yan, nagkaroon ng clarification doon sa decision on Bungalon case. Alright, now, ano pa bang mga importante na dapat ninyong malaman? Well, yung authority to discipline students, again, I'd like to emphasize yung karapatan or authority of the school to discipline our children. Hindi po yan within the school premises lamang, no? Even when the students are already outside, I think mas importante nga po yun, no? Yung discipline policies ng school should take effect even when the students are already socializing, no, with others in the society. Whenever they interact with other persons, I think yan ang talagang true measure of discipline, no, when the teachers are not looking, or when the school authorities are not around, that our children still follow, no, the values that are being exacted upon them by the school, no. May kukwento po ako, alam, dati dyan sa Baguio, dyan ako nag-elementary, no. So yung school namin dati, yung St. Vincent School, of Campo Filipino. Hindi ko alam kung nandyan pa ba yan, no? Nandyan sa may, sa may Nagilian, di ba? Yung school namin dati, mayroong church doon, di ba? May simbahan. So, pagka Sunday, dyan din kami nagsisimba ng aking family. I was then mga grade 5, ganyan. Grade 6 nung lumindol lang naman kami umalis. Around mga grade 4 and grade 5. Kapag nagsisimba kami dyan, no, I will always look around. Ayaw ko nandiyan kami nagsisimba mas gusto ko pa sa cathedral or sa St. Joseph. Kasi pag nandyan kami, dyan din kasi nagsisimba yung aking religion teacher at that time. No? So kapag nandyan si ma'am, pag nagkukwentuhan kami ng mga kapatid ko during the mass, at nakita ako ng aking teacher, no, kahit sa mass, pag nakita ko, lilisikan ako ng mata noon or gaganyan ako, no? So I always look around, no? So discipline follows me everywhere. Minsan nga kahit nasa malls, no, or strolling around in Session Road, makasalubong mo yung teacher mo, ngumunguya ka ng chewing gum. Sabihin sa akin ng teacher ko, where will you throw that chewing gum, no? So talagang no? The teachers will always be teachers, no? Even when you are outside, ganun talaga, no? Nung minsan naman, ito na, high school na ako. This is about high school now, and this is already in Metro Manila. We were eating in Max restaurant, me and my family, and I saw on another table one of my teachers back in high school, and we were eating and all, and then when my teacher was about to leave, dumaan pa doon sa table namin. Akala ko she will just say hi to my parents and to me, no, pero bumulong sa akin. Ang sabi sa akin, no elbows on the table when eating. So grabe naman, no? So alam nyo, iba talaga ang influence ng teachers over children, particularly on discipline. And let us take advantage of that, the benefits of that, no? That is why the discipline policy should not stop, no, within the school premises. And recently, the case of Vivares versus St. Teresa's College, sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi lang physically, no, student discipline should follow the students even in virtual spaces. This is very important now for our online classes. The discipline policies of the school should follow the students everywhere he goes, including when that student interacts and socializes with other people on social media and cyberspace. Ibig sabihin, kung meron siyang misconduct sa Facebook, nagmurahan, nagpost ng hindi maganda, at nalaman ng school yan, siya ay masasubject pa rin sa disciplinary rules of the school, no? Because again, as decided by the Supreme Court in the case of Vivares, no, it is the responsibility, it is within the school's authority to discipline the students' conduct in cyberspace, no? Again, because of the role of the school to shape the character of the students to be worthy citizens of our country. The discipline of students is a shared authority and responsibility of both the teachers and the parents. Now, on the part of the school naman, meron silang tinatawag na built-in obligation to maintain a safe and secure learning environment for our students. Yung safety and security na yan, of course, nag-evolve na because of the pandemic. Okay, so yung sinasabi na dapat safe ang premises is no longer limited to the physical spaces in the school or in the campus grounds. It now also refers to virtual spaces. So when students attend online classes or whenever they are on cyberspace interacting with their classmates and their friends, they should be safe, no? The school's responsibility is to make them safe, no? And so therefore, the issue on cyber safety is very important. The school should ensure that students are safe and secure in this digital age, particularly when students are attending online classes. So ano ba yung mga sinasabi natin na dapat maprotektahan yung mga students natin. No? Some of these include, of course, cyberbullying. No? It's bullying, but it is done in cyberspace. And of course, harassment, gender-based online sexual harassment, sexting. Yan yung mga usual violations, no? In cyberspace and in the internet, no? That are also a threat to our children. So it is also the obligation of the school to ensure that whenever our students are constrained to interact in cyberspace and social media, particularly when they are required to attend classes, that school should ensure that they are safe and secure. Dapat walang walang Zoom bomber, no? Dapat walang bastos diyan na biglang lalabas, or walang dapat mag-gate crash, no, doon sa ating online classes, no. And of course, dapat sila mismo, mga estudyante, they should not be subjected to cyberbullying, cyber harassment. They should be protected, and they should not also be harassers and bullies in online classes. All right. So, sexting naman, yung sending of mga nude photos or mga selfies, no? Dapat hindi yan pinapayagan, no? Sending out of circulating pornographic materials, they should not be allowed, no? Of course, alam natin yung mga regrets, no, possible regrets that come with it, no? Lalo na kung may anak kang babae, 'di ba? Dapat sabihin mo sa kanya, dapat hindi nagkukulang sa paalala ang mga schools na if they get into a relationship, no, kung sila man ay pinapayagan na intimate relationship, they should not allow themselves to be taken photos while in an intimate activity, or no wearing no clothes or in the nude. Dapat hindi sila napipicturan, or dapat hindi sila navi-video, at hindi dapat ito sinishare kahit in private, no. These are sexting, no, and it should not be allowed in our schools. Now, for this is an instruction or a guide for all of us. Some ways for students can respond to cyberbullying. Number 1, do not respond. Do not dignify the bullying. Do not retaliate. Do not become a bully yourself. No? Save the evidence. You screenshot, you screen grab, unfriend or block the bully. Talk to someone about it. Don't be a bully yourself, and be a friend. All right. And of course, you can supplement this with your own school policies. What is the parents' role to ensure safety in cyberspace? Ano naman yung role natin? Alam niyo yung mga parents, usually, they have the access, they have the opportunity to guide their children in the use of social media applications, particularly on Facebook. Why? Because students use social media and Facebook after classes, no? And normally under the supervision of the parents na. Kaya dapat tinitingnan po ninyo ano yung history na na-visit na sites. You should have control over your children's social media use, no? And that is important, no? Parents should be advised to monitor their child's activity. By the way, sa segue lang ako, no? 75 million na daw, no? According to a study by a London-based firm. 75 million Facebook users in the Philippines this year. That's already more than 70% of our population in the country. And we spend an average of more than 4 hours a day on social media. So yung 76 million na yan, I'm sure malaking part niyan, no, or baka majority niyan, mga estudyante natin, no? Malaki po ang ating population, student age population in our country. And this is an important data for our parents and our educational institutions. Imagine, last po tayo sa TIMSS at sa PISA, no? Sa pagdating sa math and science, bagsak ang ating mga students, no, in terms of performance compared to more than 50 countries all over the world. Pero number 1 tayo pagdating sa Facebook use in terms of time spent on social media and Facebook, and in the number of users in our country. Nakakalungkot po, no? So, dapat maunahan natin ang Facebook makarating sa ating mga estudyante. Maunahan ang TikTok, maunahan ang mga social media apps na yan. Maunahan natin. Kailangan, we should win the race. Our modules, our learning materials, our instructions should reach our students faster than the Facebook and the social media apps. Again, so kaya lang sila online. Paano tayo kung modular, di ba? And kung kaya ng Facebook, dapat mas kaya ng edukasyon. Alright, moving on. Sharenting, just want to inform the parents most especially, meron pong term na sharenting, which is not a good practice, no? Or sharing in social media information about our students, especially the minors, no? Because they have no opportunity to give their consent. Minsan nagsasayaw yung anak natin, or minsan walang suot, no? Minsan tingin natin cute, magpo-post tayo sa Facebook. Of course, they do not have the opportunity naman to give consent because they're still very young. And sometimes it's okay, it's innocent, kaya lang yung tumitingin po dun sa mga photos na yon, no? We are opening our children to risks also from sexual predators and pedophiles, no? That's why sharenting is not a good practice. Sharenting, yung sharing of parents of information of their children online, no? That should be discouraged, no? Because also of the Data Privacy Act, no? So again, it is the responsibility of the school to protect the privacy of personal information of students, information that they share to the school, because the school is a person information controller, and it should not allow unauthorized access of this information of students, including yung mga videos online or recording. Dapat yan may consent, no? Pagpo-post sa Facebook ng list of graduates, halimbawa, no? So we have to be, it is still I believe we're still in the education and transition process, kasi hindi naman talaga part ng culture ng Pilipino yung masyadong conscious sa privacy, but it's not an excuse. We now live in this modern society where there is easy access to information, and violation may also be easily committed, no? Particularly violation of the privacy of our personal information. And the schools take the lead, no, in making sure that our students' information are well protected and not made public, not shared to people who have no permission or authority to have those information of our students. Okay, but the parents also should remind students most especially. Alam nyo, kasi ako naniniwala na bukod sa yung pag-leak, no, ng mga information na publicly, na nabawa shinare sa school, kakalat, ang isa pang threat to the privacy of personal information of students ay yung mga students mismo. I see a lot of posts on social media na pinopost mismo ng mga estudyante without regard to their own safety and security. No, overly sharing of information. That's why the parents' role should also remind their children to be careful in sharing photos and videos of them. No, because once it is shared, no, you are deemed to have renounced all privacy rights over those photos and videos. Pagpepiestahan na yan. No? So, again, it is our responsibility to remind our children. Why? Because there is no expectation of privacy over social media posts. No? Once na i-post mo yan, kahit friends view only, parang wala ka naman talagang privacy, because people who you may not know, or friends of friends na hindi mo naman friend, no, can also see your posts. No? Kaya you cannot really expect privacy over what you post on Facebook. So it goes both ways. No? If you post something that may violate your rights, di ba? Wala tayong magawa doon, because ikaw na mismo nag-post. And also, when you post something that violates the rights of others, you cannot also invoke privacy in your post. Ibig sabihin, you have to be responsible on what you post. If it injures others, you will be held responsible, including the school. No? You may be subject to disciplinary proceedings of the school. And so therefore, the parents' role is to ensure that their children are also good netizens. No? So it's really a shared responsibility between the school and the parents. And lalo na nga, as I've said, that the students use their social media applications while at home and in between classes. That's where the parents can come in to guide their children. Again, consistent with the school rules and regulations on discipline. Now I'm almost done with my lecture. I'd like to tell everyone that in the new normal, it is the parents' role in facilitating the learning of their children using the learning kits, materials, digital or otherwise developed by the schools that would make the difference. It's really the parents' role that would make the difference now. Kasi no matter how good the learning materials are, and no matter how sophisticated the learner management system is, without the guidance of the parents, the facilitation of the parents, education will not succeed in the new normal. Because while technology can facilitate learning of our children, there is still no substitute to our parents and our teachers. Yan, hindi kayang palitan yan ng technology. There will be lesser intervention of the school under the new normal. Kasi physically, ang mga teachers ay hindi kasama ng mga bata. And it will require more participation of the parents and guardians. Again, the right and duty of the parents to rear their children, as I've said at the start of this webinar, being a natural and primary right, connotes the parents' superior right over the state in the upbringing of their children. The responsibility to educate lies with the parents and guardians as an inherent right over which the state assumes a supportive power. Okay? As ruled in the case of Spark versus Quezon City case. And maybe for our parents, maybe this is also nature's way. No? This pandemic is nature's way of compelling us to spend more time for our children's education. And for the new normal in education to succeed or to work, we must remember that it requires change in mindsets more than upgrades in technology. More than the change in upgrades in technology, it requires changing of cultures and mindsets. As I've said, we can have the best technology, but it can never replace our teachers and our parents. So with that, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, and I hope I have shared with you enough legal information that will help all of us in performing our role in the education of our children. Magandang araw po ulit sa inyong lahat, at sana magkita-kita po tayo ng personal soon. Okay? Paalam po sa inyong lahat at magandang araw muli.
Magandang araw sa bawat isa. Sa bumubuo ng BC-APSA officers and members, lubos kami nagpapasalamat sa ating pangunahing tagapagsalita na si Atty. Joseph Noel Estrada about the role of parents in the new normal. Isang pagkilala at pasasalamat ang aming lubos na pinaabot sa iyo, Atty. Estrada. Pagkilala sa iyong taus-pusong pagsusulong at pagtataguyod sa adhikain ng bawat pribadong paaralan, mga guro at mga magulang upang balikatin, pasanin at pagtulong-tulungan ang pag-aaral ng aming mga anak at mga mag-aaral. Pagkilala at pasasalamat sa iyong di masayod na kaalamang batas tungkol sa mahalagang papel na ginagampanan ng mga magulang sa pagdidisiplina at paggabay sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga anak sa tinatawag nating new normal mode of learning. Salamat sa mga mahalagang alituntuning iyong ipinahayag at ipinanukala para sa mas magandang relasyon, pag-uugnayan at pagtutulungan ng mga guro, mga magulang at mga mag-aaral. Maraming salamat sa iyong napakahalagang oras na iniukol sa aming WebTalk, The Role of the Parents in the New Normal. Once again, thank you very much and more power to you, Atty. Joseph Noel Estrada. Mabuhay ka!